Normally at this time on Thursdays, we have a chat with Matthew Archbold.
Yeah.
He's not available to us today, but his
Oh,
website
no.
is. And so I
Oh,
thought we'd go to his website and kind of take a look at what he's reporting on.
oh,
Always fabulous stories. If you're not checking out his website on a regular
yeah,
basis, I
yeah.
strongly encourage you to do that. CreativeMinorityReport.com. He reports on all of the big news happening in around us from a Catholic perspective and with the individualized approach of Matthew Archbold.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
unique take for sure, but I'll tell you what, he
definitely.
exposes some things that are just, I mean, your mouth is open going, "Oh, what? Is
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
really happening?" And it is. Like in Brazil,
Oh,
when
that
they're,
was the
they're
one I saw.
sentencing, the judge is sentencing parents to jail for homeschooling without teaching diversity.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That was the one that jumped out at me too,
Yeah.
Ron, as I looked at it. And it's very interesting because, it says they've been sentenced to 50 days in prison for the crime of homeschooling their own daughters. That's right, not abuse, not neglect, not failing to feed them. No, the charge is intellectual neglect.
oh my.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
Dave.
well, there are these approved materials for
Yeah.
those homeschooling, and they didn't use them. And
Uh,
all of them include the things that have driven them from sending their children to the established schools.
Yeah.
Right.
So now the government is saying, if you don't want to send your children to the established schools to learn this diversity, we're going to force you to do it through homeschooling, and they just refuse to do it. But tell me, how in the world does this make sense? You've got parents who are raising children, and they're removing them from the home to put them in prison. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
nutty.
yeah, and I love, like, when you look at their kids, it says the girls are accomplished pianists.
Right.
They speak multiple languages.
Whoa.
So really, they're not really educated. I mean, and multiple languages. They don't have a cultural diversity background. I mean, it's crazy. And I what he said in this article, which I found fascinating, was that even the prosecutor thought,
Right.
we should just, he recommended acquittal after looking at the evidences and witnesses testified and all that kind of stuff. They had an educational psychologist who said there was no signs of neglect here, and the girls described a rigorous daily education. But the judge was the one who's now, this is like the pot calling the kettle
Right.
black,
Yeah.
accused the parents of, quote, using their daughters as pawns in an ideological struggle. I'm thinking, who's using who?
Who's doing that? Yeah. wow.
This seems like a fulfillment of living life upside down, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I know. So it is just, obviously they're hoping that this whole thing will be overturned again. But it's like, this is crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. And I think the quote from the mom sums it up the best, right? No, it was where was hers? I read this so quickly. But they're also looking at passing a bill too,
Right,
so that's a
right.
good thing. So yeah, the mother was calling out the dictatorship. She said, "As a mother, I cannot conceive a more dictatorial state than the one that wants me in jail because I choose to exercise my right to direct the education and upbringing of my daughters. My husband and I are hopeful the court will recognize our right to choose the best education for our children and overturn this unjust conviction."
Well, we need to put our thumb down on this kind of behavior.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and as she says, as a mother, I cannot conceive a more dictatorial state. Yeah, you know what? She's also the one who conceived to start
Yeah,
with.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She
Whose
has
kids
some
are
parental
these?
rights here.
Yeah. Well, you remember the old quote, it takes a village to raise a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
And I think that has been used
Right.
to do all these kinds of things. And I read the other day a quote that says it takes a family to raise a village.
Yeah, oh, there you
I
go.
like that.
And I'm using that one now
Yeah,
all
I
the
like
time.
that.
I'm like, let's get rid of this. It takes a village to raise a child, because what that has turned into is other people have the same rights to your kids as you do.
Exactly.
And I said, and so, but I think we've got to be more focused on the family. It takes, you don't have a village unless you have good families. You basically have chaos if you don't have good families.
And you say, well, that's in Brazil, and they're crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? How about this one in Canada? And again, this from CreativeMinorityReport.com, the website for Matthew Archbold, another one of his stories. Canada just made quoting the Bible a hate crime. For those of you listening, if you're listening in the Diocese of Toledo, Northwest Ohio, if you're listening in Michigan, that's right next door.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
this is happening very, very close to us. Again, Canada just made quoting the Bible a hate crime.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think, when we look at all these kinds of things, like you said, Dave, we think it's, that's another country. We'll never have that.
Yeah.
Well, I just heard Maine has now said that if you don't follow what they want you to follow in their curriculums, et cetera, which is all the stuff that we were just talking about, they will not give you any kind of vouchers,
Right.
so like Catholic schools, Christian schools that say, yeah, we can't teach this stuff, it's wrong, they're just gonna pull their vouchers from them.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I mean, we think it's in other countries, and it is, but it seeps into our country, and very subtly. They don't come
Yeah.
right out and say, well, quoting the Bible is a hate speech,
Yeah.
right? But it's a very subtle. This is what equality looks like. This is what and so if you don't do these things, well then we're going to pull these things from you. And Catholics are paying taxes up there too. So.
That's right. And these Canadian this Canadian law, I mean, is so polarizing. Obviously, it's really so. According to the story here, a bill so radioactive, opposition came from both the political left and the right. So everybody's up in arms over this, but how do these things even get going? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone has to push this through against everyone else's approval, and then the debate begins. Instead of the other way around, the debate should begin first.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just a few weeks ago, the majority of the members of Parliament in Canada rejected a motion to withdraw the monstrous piece of legislation. Rejected it.
Yeah.
Said no. Bill C9 is going forward. The bill that basically says quoting certain parts of the Bible could land you in prison, especially. Not surprising here, especially anything having to do with homosexuality. And the majority of Parliament voted down the idea of withdrawing this bill. We're insane.
Yeah,
we're absolutely insane.
And Canada is kind of unique because their religious schools are they're paid for by the government. So they kind of fall into that same, and because I went up there and did some workshops in a certain part of Canada for Catholic schools.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that when I got up there, and I said, well, if you want me to do moral theology according to the Catholic Church, I'm going to have to talk about these things,
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if that is going to offend, but they try to be very careful about that because they are part of the same system.
That's right. And Matthew Archbold's Creative Minority Report, I mean, he presents some very troubling stories, but he does it with such, I don't know,
Humor.
the way he presents it, there's humor there and there's irony there, and it's you don't get angry, you just kind of get enlightened. So
Yes.
CreativeMinorityReport.com,